June 8th was a sunshiny day, and I had decided to do some sunbathing on the deck. After a while, I became aware of an adult raven some 30 meters above me in one of the Douglas firs. From there, they like to keep watch on intruding raptors, like bald eagles. They chase eagles, red-tailed hawks, even Cooper's hawks, as soon as they appear above the horizon. They very rarely give any attention to turkey vultures, which are very frequently surveying the valley, often in numbers of 6 or 8. It is amazing how the ravens are able to instantly recognize an eagle, even if it is several kilometers away, and they never mistake a vulture for an eagle. This afternoon, the raven above me uttered some content croak calls in response to some kick calls by another raven. I suspect that the raven in view was the male, and the invisible one uttering the kick calls was the female. The latter eventually alighted a few branches above the first, and they continued their conversation. But suddenly they both took off with angry "kurr, kurr, kurr" calls. This time it was a red-tailed hawk that soared into the valley from the west. A mere 4 minutes after the red-tailed hawk, 2 immature eagles came up the valley from Metchosin, 4 kilometers away to the east. They were again eagerly pursued. My camera refused to focus except for a few frames, but I was able to record the angry calls of the pursuing ravens. Then, almost 3 hours later, shortly before 6, the ravens had to attend to yet another eagle. This time I was able to some extent to record the chase which took them up Blinkhorn Mountain on the other side of the valley. As the eagle sails off, one briefly hears the triumphant croak of the returning raven. The chase requires a lot of work for the ravens to get up to the height at which the eagles fly. Nonetheless, the ravens seem to be always successful with their chases. Often after a completed chase, they come back down gamboling, doing barrel rolls and quirk, quirk, quirk calls, which sound happy. Such events happen several times a day, and we are of course here at most half a day to witness, and if we are lucky to record the events. But today we were in luck. Coming home from a morning and early afternoon in town, we were soon greeted by the ravenous yells of the young ravens. And of course I went out with a portion of the chicken remains from our stock production. These have become a huge success with the young ravens. If the ravens are hungry, they now come screaming for food across the valley and into the little forest surrounding the feeding area. Often it takes a mere 20 seconds from me depositing the food until the ravens land by it. This time it took almost 4 minutes, and as they were feeding, one could see the shadows of circling vultures passing over them. Then a turkey vulture actually landed. The young ravens scattered, and the two adults took the vulture on and managed to drive the vulture off in a mere 4 seconds. But then, some 20 seconds later, the ravens disappeared again, and the adults erupted in aggressive raptor calls. An eagle had landed and wanted its part of the food, hopping from where it had landed towards the food through the grass. It was an almost mature eagle, with some remnants of brown among the plumage on its head and its tail feathers. One of the adult ravens, I think it was the male, put an amazing effort into impressing the eagle, hopping around it, dancing, pretending having a broken wing, trying to pull its tail feathers. Once the raven actually succeeded in getting at the eagle's tail feathers and made the eagle start. The raven took the eagle by the tail. Eventually, after some 4 minutes of confrontation and altercation, the other adult raven arrived, and together they were able to drive the eagle off their food. The eagle left southeastward across Blinkhorn Mountain. Some hour later, an eagle arrived back from beyond Blinkhorn Mountain. It might have been the same one, the one driven off an hour earlier, but this time it did not attempt to get at the food.